This is the sequel episode to episode 117. We are still looking deeply into the German constitution and blockchain technology. Are they a great match? Have fun.
Welcome to The Blockchain Lawyer, a podcast on technology and law. Dennis Hilleman is an accomplished lawyer with over 13 years of experience and a passion for creating a better future through blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, and other disruptive innovations. All statements expressed in this podcast are the opinions of the host and his guests only and are in no way legal or financial advice. And now, here is your host, Dennis.
What's up, everyone? This is Dennis speaking. This is episode 18 of The Blockchain Lawyer, and we are gonna continue our deep dive into the question if the German constitution can actually handle blockchain technologies. In episode 117, we took a deep dive already into civil liberties and the blockchain technology, and we acknowledged that the German constitution and the civil liberties in the German constitution would do very well with blockchain, that blockchain could actually help us boost our civil liberties and our freedom again. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go and check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But today we're going to look a little into the blockchain strategy of the German federal government and the question if the German federal government is actually able to do that, because we don't even know if they are responsible and if they have the power to do all that they are talking about in their blockchain strategy. So that's what we're going to do today, and I hope you have a lot of fun. And I just want to make one announcement, and maybe you've already noticed it. I will also start a German podcast. It will be called Recht im Ohr, which means law in the ear, a game of words, so to speak. And we will also be starting with blockchain technology on that. So you might want to take a look. I'm sure the German podcast will be out within the next week, or at least 10 days. It will be all over Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts. And if you're a German listener, you might want to check it out. It will not only be about blockchain, it will be about other law subjects as well. But perhaps you find it joyful to listen to me even in German. I'm already happy that you're listening to me in English, but I promise I'm a little better in German as it is my native language. So anyhow, that's that. And now let's go back to the German constitution and the blockchain technology. Let's take a little recap. The German constitution is from 1949. The blockchain technology based on Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper from 2008. And I asked the question, do they work well together? In episode 117, I already answered that for quite a few subjects. And now we're going to look at another different thing. So there's the political idea of the German federal government to boost blockchain big scale in Germany, to make blockchain really popular and important, which I highly approve. But of course, the question arises if the German federal government is actually able to do that blockchain strategy. Like, do they actually have the power to do the laws that are needed to fulfill their ideas? This is what we're going to talk about, and that is what we're going to look into now. So, I already made an episode, I think it was episode number 4, which is called Big Things Coming, on the blockchain strategy of the federal government of Germany. If you don't know about it and if you want to go into the details, then you probably should check out this episode. Nonetheless, I'll name and summarize a few key elements of the blockchain strategy of the federal government of Germany here now as well. So what the federal government actually says quite at the beginning of its paper, which was released at the end of September, they say that the blockchain technology will change the internet as we know it. And I think that's already a big thing. And they say that they want especially to focus on the chances that blockchain offers for our economy, and within that sector they especially want to focus on the token economy. With blockchain technology, it's possible to tokenize everything. Every right there is, every property, whatever you can think of, you can tokenize it, because with blockchain, it can be unique. It cannot be copied in a million ways, because with a blockchain, as a decentralized and very safe and immutable database, you can digitize everything in a unique way. And that is also the digitalization of any rights, of property, of licenses, whatever you can think of. And the German federal government thinks that with this token economy, you can change so much. Why do I think that? Just take a look at the capital market. 99% of all companies in Europe are small and medium-sized companies, and they can't go to the stock market to make money. But what they can do, they could offer a share of their company, or for example, of their wins, of their actual income after taxes. They could offer a share and sell these shares based on tokens on blockchain technology. And with that, they could actually boost their company. They could gather money by doing that. If you want to learn more about that, go check out episode 4, because I'm talking in detail about that. So the token economy makes a lot of sense for small and medium-sized companies, and it can allow for a much different way of companies to finance their growth, but also for people to invest in companies. And it can also, of course, offer quite new business models that are unique and have not been there before. So I actually think also that the token economy is actually a big thing for Germany and Europe and for the whole blockchain space. So that is something that the German federal government wants to go deep in. But it's not the only thing. Something else that the federal German government wants to do is to support digital identities on the blockchain. That's a huge topic, very important. I talked about that in episode 2 already, after my OECD event with Elastos. With digital identities, we don't need the paper ID anymore. It would be able for us to show who we are, to prove who we are on the internet, safe and secure, without the possibility to be hacked by blockchain technology. That would boost the trust on the internet and allow for many new business models as well, and of course make everything for us easier, like especially make KYC, know your customer procedures for many companies quite easy. So digital IDs are actually, from my point of view, the base that you need to fully digitize your economy and your thinking and your working as a state. So the blockchain technology, with its safe and immutable decentralized database, it could actually be quite perfect for digital IDs. And of course, the federal government of Germany is aware that Microsoft and other big companies are already working on such digital IDs. So it makes a lot of sense that they go into that subject and make sure that they are not running behind these companies, but actually trying to play their own role in that. That's why they deeply want to go into that. Then they want to change the law of evidence. They want to allow for blockchain technology to become something that you can use in court as an evidence. For example, if you timestamped an information on the blockchain, then it could be proven that this information was actually accurate at a certain point that it was timestamped. And therefore, blockchain technology could work very well. So the federal government wants to look deeply into that. Then it wants to check out if the German administration could actually use blockchain technologies. You know that in other countries like Estonia, it's very common to do a lot on the blockchain. Also, the federal government of Germany especially wants to boost blockchain technology in the energy sector, because there are a lot of transactions, of course, in the energy sector. There's a lot of accounting done in the energy sector. And there are a lot of players, both private as public, cooperating in the energy sector. And if you think of what blockchain technology is all about cooperation in a trustful digital environment, then the energy sector and the use of blockchain technology could be quite a great match. So that is why the federal government of Germany wants to look into that as well. And I think that's a very good idea. It also wants to work with the European Union on blockchain projects, especially on the blockchain infrastructure. And this is something where I want to go in a little deeper now for a moment, because the German parties, CDU and CSU, that are the conservative parties, and Angela Merkel, our chancellor, she is a member of the CDU. They say that you would need a government-driven blockchain infrastructure in Germany. That caused a lot of turmoil in Germany. That is not the position of the government, because the government, the SPD, the Social Democrats are part two. So this is just an idea of the party of Chancellor Merkel. They say, hey, we need a public-driven blockchain infrastructure regulated or run at least by the government. And of course, I know some of my blockchain friends, quite a few of them, are very opposed to that idea, because it would stand against everything that Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper and original idea for blockchain stood for. It would not be decentralized, it would be very centralized. It would not be driven by the people allowing peer-to-peer transactions. The government, the state, would play a big role in that. And that is, of course, something that blockchain evangelists fear to their bones, and I can understand that very well. But there's an element of truth in the idea, so at least I think it's fair for it to be discussed. Let me recount you something. I went to Blockchains 2019 in Hamburg. It was a really superb blockchain event. It will happen in 2020 again. If you have the time, go check it out. But anyhow, that's not the case. At the Blockchains event, there were representatives of Volkswagen, of Daimler, and of BMW. And they talked about blockchain technology. And basically they agreed, of course these were representatives that were working on blockchain, but basically they all agreed on that blockchain is part of the future, for example for autonomous driving. But they also said the following thing: we cannot work together on a blockchain scenario. For example, they can't make a blockchain together. Why? Because antitrust rules forbid that. Of course, they can all make their own blockchain and make sure it's interoperable, but they said that it would be very wise if, especially when it comes to driving cars in public traffic, which is of course something where safety means a lot, it would be very wise if it wasn't the BMW blockchain next to the Volkswagen blockchain and so on. It would be very wise if the car companies in Germany, or at least or even Europe, had one blockchain together. But the car companies, they can't talk about that because it would be against antitrust rules from the European Union and from Germany. So you see that such rules forbid a little collaboration on such a level. And they also underlined that this is, of course, a big problem because Google doesn't care about such rules, because Google is just one company. And one of the representatives said, we must decide if the German car companies are going to be the Google of car driving in the future, or if Google rather becomes the German car companies. I think that's a very wise thing to say. So if we have these antitrust rules that we can't change now, then it would be a good idea to discuss if at least not if we don't at least have a public blockchain on that projects by different companies, by different participants could be run interoperable between all of them, making the public government-driven blockchain quite a link between different blockchain infrastructures. I think that is something that should be discussed and that is not so unclever. It could solve, for example, the problem for the car companies because they could all connect then with a public government-driven blockchain. And of course, the nodes of such a blockchain driven by the government, that could be nodes like federal agencies, federal administrations, very trustworthy institutions. Of course, on the other hand, you could say, hey, if they run the blockchain, they control it, and then the ideas that we had with blockchains, they are just lost. That's something that I also understand, and that's what I mean. One should discuss that project, because I think, for example, what you could actually do is make a German foundation, like a German foundation that is at the beginning financed and regulated by the state, making the law. The federal government could make the laws for such a foundation, but is then run independently of the government as much as that is possible. And that foundation, that NGO, could actually run or control or regulate such a government-driven, which is not true, which doesn't make sense, it's not government-driven, and could run or regulate a state public blockchain infrastructure. So this is also something that is discussed here in Germany at the point of the recording of this episode, which is the 17th of November 2019. So anyhow, now you might ask, okay, so where's the problem? So the federal government of Germany has these great ideas. Why can't they just do it? So, of course, we need to understand that Germany doesn't resemble Paris. Germany consists of 60 states. We have a federal government, but we've also got 16 state governments, comparable to the US. And these state governments also have competences and powers. For example, the German constitution says that whenever the constitution does not give the power to the federal government, the power to make laws, the competence to make rules, is within the federal states. So, if the German federal government has something in their blockchain strategy that does not work with the states, that does touch the state's competence, then it will not allow for the federal government to make its strategy fully happen. So, here's the good news. Most of what is part of the federal government strategy is actually within its own competence, because the federal government, of course, with the federal parliament of Germany, the Deutsche Bundestag, which is the parliament of Germany, of course, makes the laws, but the federal government can actually start the procedure of creating a law. The federal institutions, they have the competences for private law and for the competences for economy all over Germany. And they also have the competence, for example, for healthcare, in which the federal government of Germany also wants to bring up a solution on blockchain scenario. And of course, the federal government also has the competence to create laws with the German parliament when it comes to telecommunication. So if you look especially at the token economy that the German the German federal government is addressing as a focus subject, then yes, that can be done. There can be laws done by the federal institutions. Also, if you look at the infrastructure on federal level, of course, this is within the federal government's competence. Also, the energy sector, because this, of course, touches whole Germany, is way within the competence of the federal institutions. So blockchain solutions touching the energy sector as wished by the federal government of Germany, they can be created, the laws for it can be created by the federal institution. That is all possible. However, there are also parts that are not within the competence of the federal government. For example, they also say that they want to create a solution on blockchain for diploma, for educational diploma, for higher education. And higher education and its diplomas, that is totally not within the competence of the federal government. That is education and higher education. That is the competence of the federal states of Germany. So if you want blockchain solutions in this field, in educational fields, then the 16 states in Germany would work together. And of course, this is something that troubles me a little, because in France or in China, the central government can just determine and regulate the rules also for education. And in Germany, it takes quite some time until the federal states work together, and it's always a big hustle. So I'm a little worried there. Also, something that we need to take into consideration is the role of the European Union. The German Constitution states in Article 23 that Germany is part of the European Union and therefore can give competences to the European Union. And everything that concerns the trade between member states of the European Union, and everything, of course, that concerns the currency, the euro, that is not within the power of the federal government of Germany anymore. That is within the power of the European Union. And if we are honest, blockchain is meant on a global scale. Blockchain is, of course, meant for trading and interactions between members from the different member states of the European Union. Companies from France do business with companies from Italy. They do business with companies from Bulgaria, which again do business with companies from Germany. And if we would put that on the blockchain, then the European Union will play a big role in all that. So I worry a little that the federal government of Germany, especially when it comes to token economy, will face challenges that they might create laws that might not comply fully with the laws of the European Union. So what I'm basically saying is, while our constitution, the German Grundgesetz, can actually handle the blockchain strategy of the federal government quite well, I don't think that they can actually fulfill all their promises, because they will need to work with the European Union to comply with EU law. And what is so much more important from my point of view is that the European Union and the European institutions, especially the European Commission and the European Parliament, that they sit down and work on a big-scale blockchain economy solution, that they create the regulations very well that make blockchain work all over Europe, especially in the economy field. And this is something that I'm looking forward to very much and hoping very much for, that this will happen soon. Because the states, the US states, because China, they create these laws for their economy. And I worry a lot that Germany and other European countries will fall way behind because we're just not moving fast enough when it comes to blockchain. So, let's resume. The German Constitution, though it was settled in 1948 and 1949, works quite well with blockchain technology, which come from 2008. Blockchain technology can boost the civil liberties from the German Constitution. It can boost also the economy in the way that German institution wanted it. And the federal government has quite some competences to create an environment based on the German constitution to make blockchain work very well. But we need to consider that the European Union will play a big role nonetheless, and that we all need to glance at Brussels, that they work, hopefully, very fast on a good solution for all of us in Europe. That's the episode for this time. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to discuss it, if you want to discuss other subjects, or if you want to be part of an interview, I'll start with interviews soon, then please contact me on LinkedIn. I'd like to hear to you as usual. And so until next time, bye-bye.
If you want to learn more about Dennis, please visit his website, theblockchain.lawyer, or connect with him on LinkedIn or Twitter. Until next time, everyone.